The Indian Navy has two aircraft carriers that have a stow bar mechanism, but this is a Catobar mechanism on the Charles de Gaulle. What are the advantages of a Catobar mechanism and why the Indian Navy wants to have the third aircraft carrier with the Catobar mechanism? But there are several cost constraints. Take a look at this report to understand what is better, a Catobar or a stow bar aircraft carrier.
The Indian Navy inducted its first indigenous aircraft carrier INS Vikrant last year. India now has two functional aircraft carriers, INS Vikrant and INS Vikramaditya. But here's one big difference between the Indian carriers and Charles de Gaulle. While the French carrier operating with Rafales operates with Catobar or the catapult takeoff but arrested recovery mechanism, the Indian carriers use the stow bar, short takeoff but arrested recovery. The Catobar has a flat deck while the stow bar comes to a ski jump.
The entire length of this flight deck is 264 meters, but we are right now at the runway which is 75 meters long. What is different in this aircraft carrier when compared to what the Indian Navy has? This is a Catobar aircraft carrier and this is the place from where the aircraft are actually launched. It takes only 3 seconds for an aircraft to be launched, and that's one big advantage of the Catobar style of launching, where there is in fact a catapult kind of pull to the aircraft that helps it to be launched very quickly. And this little cabin, it has just 2 seats, is from where this catapult system is closely monitored. The entire mechanism is in fact beneath the flight deck. And what is also special about the flight deck here is that it has 2 such launchers. So at one point of time, within 3 seconds, 2 aircraft are at full speed of 260 kilometers per hour. This is what makes the Catobar system very different from what the Indian Navy is using. The Catobar system obviously is much more expensive, but the Indian Navy has 2 stow bar systems for their aircraft carriers, but this one has a Catobar system. And another special aspect is that within 30 seconds, the next aircraft can be launched because of this Catobar system on board.
The Indian Navy was hoping to get a Catobar carrier as the third one, but cost constraints means they will have to settle for a stow bar if at all there is a clearance from the government. A Catobar carrier can have a bigger impact as it increases range, has more weapons and can operate at a variety of aircraft. Both Super Hornet and Rafale are suited for Catobar carriers. However, they were tested on Navy's shore-based facility in Goa that has a ski jump and is identical to the 2 aircraft carriers India has.
We saw during this Varuna exercise that we have the same skills for learning fighters on carriers. And the Vikrant will use also the same method to learn its fighters on its angle deck. The main difference relies on the takeoff, with no catapults and a ski jump that differs by the method to launch the aircraft. But other than that, it's about the same principles.
A stow bar, due to less space, cannot accommodate surveillance aircraft like the Charles de Gaulle. A Catobar carrier can launch aircraft with more payload at a quicker pace, but the maintenance costs are higher. Indian Navy had envisaged a third carrier or indigenous aircraft carrier 2 with the proposed name of INS Vishal, which simply means massive. This was expected to be a 65,000-ton warship with the capacity to accommodate more aircraft on board, but it has been put on hold due to budget constraints.